Hello everyone, this is Bill Griffin. Welcome to Different Tech Podcast. If you like this content, please subscribe, like, share, comment. Really appreciate you watching. The 2022 midterm elections, if you voted for a Democrat in the Congress or Senate, and please share this with anyone you know it's a Democrat that you think might help. I think many of them unknowingly voted for a continuation of inflation and certain recession. If you've been doing this for years, that's what you've been voting for. You've been voting for more and more inflation. Maybe you wanted to do that. Maybe you knew what you were doing. But if you didn't, the first step is to understand what causes inflation. The United States House of Representatives and the Senate and the President have fiscal responsibility. So they do not exercise any discretion, many of them, whether they're Democrat or Republican. But the difference is that some Republicans are saying the right things, that the United States must slow the spending. So the cause of inflation is money supply. It's monetary policy. We've had expansion of the money supply, and the number of goods that are being produced smaller, so you have higher prices. The fix is, if you can go through history and look this up, is the Fed funds rate. The Federal Reserve will have to increase interest rates higher than the CPI. Right now, it's about half. Congress, what they're going to have to do, if we're going to fight inflation, is you're going to have to stop spending. Democrats do not do that. They do not. They have a long history of spending and running up huge deficits. Some Republicans do, many Republicans, but you have no chance with Democrats. It says Georgia Senator Raphael Warnock in a runoff against Herschel Walker. Can't vote for Warnock if you want. If you have to vote for Herschel Walker if your main issue is inflation. Now, if you don't care, for example, you don't care what the price of things are, well, I guess it doesn't matter. But I think many Democrats do not understand, maybe Republicans voters too, but many Democrat voters do not understand, in my opinion, what is causing inflation, because you will hear a great number of media outlets who will deny that there is a recession, who will deny that the inflation is going to continue for a long time. You will see this in the mainstream financial news outlets, as well as just the legacy media outlets saying this. They're not explaining this properly to the public. Lucy McBath in Georgia's 7th district, she defeated Carolyn Bourdeaux in the primary, and she is defeated the Republican opponent, Mark Gonsalves, by a margin of 20 points, 60%, 40%. If you voted for Lucy McBath, you voted for inflation. That's just, there's no two ways about it. Mortgage rates are at 7%. If you take a job, say to move, you have to factor in that maybe you have a 3% mortgage, and you're going to have to factor in that you're going to have to pay 7 or north of that, because that's where things are headed. No one expects, you cannot, unless the Fed just gives up, and then you're going to see inflation really spiral out of control if the Fed gives up the fight against inflation by increasing rates. In December, another 3/4 increase is probably coming. But you were played, if you didn't know this, you were played, because I've heard the excuses are that it's a global phenomenon. Inflation is a global phenomenon. The United States is doing pretty well considering other countries. Well, guess who caused primarily the global issue? The United States led the way. So that's one sort of excuse that you hear. The other excuse is that corporations are greedy. And I've talked about this several times, but then you explain when inflation was at a 2% rate or even lower, were corporations less greedy then? It's just a foolish thing to say and think, but I think people buy it because they don't get other information. So that's what I've seen is this trend for that lie to the voters and shield them from the truth, the reality that this inflationary spiral that we're in is not going away anytime soon. This is U.S. Congressman Carolyn Bourdeaux, who happens to be my representative, worst representative I've ever had, but I think Lucy McBath may even be worse. This is a letter written October 31, 2022, and it goes as follows. The Inflation Reduction Act will lower prescription drug and health care costs, strengthen our nation's energy security, combat climate change, and reduce the deficit. This monumental legislation will lower costs and create good-paying jobs for our nation's working families for years to come. It was for these reasons that I voted to pass this legislation on August 12, 2022, and it was later signed into law by President Biden. Democrats love to spend. That's what they do. They don't really care what they're spending on. It could be military. It could be any number of items. But you can see in fact, her latest newsletter that she sends to constituents, it is all spending. There is no discussion. This is either really don't know what the hell they're doing, or they're corrupt liars about the Inflation Reduction Act, for example, is immaterial. The fact is, if you voted for Carolyn Bourdeaux or Lucy McBath or any Democrat for Congress or Senate, it's 100% certainty you voted for inflation, because it is 100% they're going to vote for spending, any spending. That's what they do. That's what they've done for many, many years in the past, and there's absolutely zero indication that will ever change. The media has also lied, and Democrats have painted this picture on a couple of issues. For example, abortion, that there's some sort of total federal ban on abortion and your rights will be taken away and nothing could be further from the truth. That is not what happened with the overturn of Roe versus Wade. If you have a student loan and you think you're not going to have to pay it back, I would bet you're going to have to pay it back in full. So plan for it. The media is not telling you the truth about that, but that will probably never happen, never come close to happening. So with Republicans in the House, hopefully the spending will slow. But if you have Democrats there, and fortunately Republicans did get the House, and they'll be at odds with Joe Biden. Democrats have said in the campaign the Republicans didn't have a plan. Well, some of them do have a plan to curb inflation, and that is to stop spending more money than the government takes in. It's a real simple thing. But Democrats will say, oh, Republicans have no plan. Well, that's the whole point. That is the plan. Democrats' plan is to, you're gonna pay more. You're just going to continue to pay more, and this is going to go on for a few years. So you're really denying that inflation is happening. They're denying that we are in a recession. We're going to 2023, all economic indicators is going to be a really rough year. No economist, even Bernie Sanders, says the Inflation Reduction Act will make no difference at all, or actually will accelerate inflation, sort of like throwing gas on a fire. The Democrats will tell you that, and this is what they're going to want to do if they have their way, more stimulus and price controls. Price controls equals shortages. Whenever the government imposes price controls, that's what you get, is shortages. For example, look at the housing situation in San Francisco, California. You have some rent controls, you have housing shortages, and extraordinary high real estate prices. So you've heard the term election denier, and again, Democrats are, and the legacy media, very corrupt, is not telling the truth about the cause of inflation. They don't talk about it, or what the proper solution is. If you pay very close attention, I think it's important to pay attention to what people don't say. Democrats do not make any estimate that the CPI will go down anytime soon. That is really all you need to know if that is a concern to you. Now, if you don't care, you're good with chaos and recession, the economy shrinking, the U.S. economy shrinking, and prices getting higher for everybody. If you want that, that's what you voted for. If you voted for Democrat, you have some chance with the Republicans. You have 100% certainty, no chance with Democrats slowing their spending habits. So that's my episode today. I'd like to know what you think. Please comment, share, like, subscribe, and thank you for watching.